Hello gamers, I am Mike TheZorch, and this is Gamers Bay Weekly. Now, before I get into today's story, I want to give you a little bit of background. Now, some of you probably who are coming to this video probably already know about this, but those of you who are new to this situation, there was a game called Elite released back in the 1980s for the ZX Spectrum. It was later ported to other systems. At the time, it was truly innovative. It had a vast explorable galaxy. It had really innovative use of graphics at the time. For a game of that era, it was truly groundbreaking. And over the years, there have been newer versions and games in the series released. And then around the 2010s, the original creator of Elite, David Braden, had a company called Frontier Developments, which was known for park simulators. And they're also known for the Jurassic World games. And they're currently also working on a game in the Warhammer franchise. Well, he started a Kickstarter for Elite Dangerous. Next game in this long-standing franchise of games based in the Elite universe. And he got the game funded and he released the game. But after that, that's where the problems started. And it really began with the Horizons update. A lot of things that David Braden originally promised in the original pitch for Elite Dangerous, just about all of them, and consider this, just about everything that he promised in the original pitch for Elite Dangerous is in Star Citizen right now, and it's still an alpha, and Elite Dangerous is a finished game. So everything was fine after Elite Dangerous was launched, and then the Horizons update came. And Horizons update brought in planetary landings, and it also brought in engineering. And engineering drastically changed a lot of things. And there are people who will vehemently deny this. Vehemently deny it, but engineering is one of the worst things that they could have added to the game, because you can super engineer a ship to the point to where even the NPC security forces in the game cannot destroy your ship. I have personally seen it. I have personally witnessed a super engineered ship sitting in front of a space station getting blasted by security forces and the space station, and nothing happening to that ship, taking no damage. I have personally seen it. To anyone who denies that it is possible, either doesn't know what they're talking about, or they're a fanboy deliberately lying. Anyway, after Horizons, they also had this really expensive, season pass where you were supposed to get all kinds of updates for free. Well, they never released anything past Horizons. It was always free updates for everybody. And what we got between Horizons and the latest expansion, Odyssey, has been just this long series of iterative small improvements and completely mismanaged or misdeveloped ideas. The fleet carriers were a good idea, but the way they're implemented is garbage. The upkeep, everything seems to be designed to try and keep you in the game 24/7. being able to do anything requires a massive amount of grinding. It's like they want to keep you in the game as long as possible. They introduced arcs. Originally, when you went to buy anything from their microtransaction store, you actually paid just regular money. Well, now you had to start buying these points, and they they hid the actual cost of items in the store by putting them, behind these arc points. And when you really do the math, these items are a lot more expensive than they used to be. That indicates to me that they were starting to have some money problems, because their Jurassic Park games, while they sold, really didn't move as many units as I think they were expecting. And it doesn't end there. When the Odyssey update came, the Odyssey update was really ambitious. It gave us on the ground first person gameplay. You could get out of your ship and go inside space stations, and you could interact with terminals and talk to NPCs and buy equipment. And then on certain worlds, you could land, get out, and there was FPS gameplay there. There was ground combat with NPCs and other players. But its implementation was really poor, and the graphical performance was absolutely awful, and still is pretty awful today. There's been some attempts to try and fix it, but I think they are at the limits of what their engine is capable of, and I don't think they know if they even can fix it. There has been only just very small improvements. And the way weapons work in Elite Dangerous is laser weapons damage shields, but they don't damage your hull. Ballistics don't damage shields, but they can damage your hull. But plasma weapons can do both, and they can even inflict heat damage. So they applied that to ground weapons, FPS weapons. So most every other gun, either you have to carry two different types of guns and switch guns in the middle of combat, or you just carry a single weapon, a plasma weapon that can take out shields and take out armor at the same time to kill people. And so only one gun became the one thing that everybody used. And a lot of the FPS gameplay was uninspired. It was still grindy. The ground locations were basically cookie cutter, much like the space station interiors. The space station interiors were all samey, except for different color variations later on. And you had no ship interiors. And even though they were originally promised in the Kickstarter, they basically said they're not coming. You're not getting ship interiors. Then, well, guess which game delivers on ship interiors? Yes, the one everyone calls a scam. Anyway, the whole thing with Odyssey has been just an absolute disaster from beginning to where we are now. David Braden today posted in the forums a statement basically saying that they're canceling development of the console version of Elite Dangerous. They will continue to release, critical updates. Basically, they're putting it into maintenance mode. And this is worse than maintenance mode, really. And they say they're going to focus on PC. The thing is, if they were going to fix things on the PC side, they would have already done it. They took too long. And their behavior towards players between launch and now, their behavior towards players, especially since the launch of the Odyssey expansion, has been absolutely horrible. basically, they've been acting like woke Hollywood, basically calling people horrible things for criticizing the game, lashing out at them. Basically, the things that you would see from Hollywood actors lashing out at people because no one would go to see their movie, or that their movie failed in the box office, that sort of thing. And banning people from the forums for actually mentioning Star Citizen at all, or asking them to fix problems with Odyssey. It got really, really bad. And it's just a terrible situation. And the game started hemorrhaging players in a serious way. A lot of full-time Elite Dangerous streamers are now streaming Star Citizen. Some of them have even changed their channel names to show that they are no longer doing Star Citizen. There's one channel that is still vehemently in Elite Dangerous' side, and that's Burr Pit. And I don't know what he's going to do. I have no idea what he's going to do. He has been very anti-Star Citizen, very pro-Elite Dangerous, and then this news comes out, and I've seen videos by Yamix and Obsidian Ant, and they both, you could hear it in their voice. Even Yamix has basically come out and said, this is it. This is the end of Elite Dangerous. What he sees is the same thing I see with what's happened with this game. What they're doing. Here's some of the wording. Over the last several months, we have been wrestling with the best way to move forward, and it is with heavy heart that we have decided to cancel all console development. Now, there's more here. We need to be able to move forward with the story of the game. And in order for us to do this, we need to focus on a single code base. Elite Dangerous will continue on console as it is now, together with critical updates, but we will focus on new content updates for PC on the post-Odyssey code base. If you take what he said, if you take what he says there, the situation with Elite Dangerous is that their player base is already very fragmented. Because Sony doesn't truly play nice with crossplay. They only grudgingly do, if the developer chooses to pay their fee for it. Because there's no open free crossplay on the PlayStation, the PlayStation players are segregated from the PC Elite Dangerous players. Now, if you are playing the base game of Elite Dangerous without any expansions, you can still see and interact with players who are playing the Horizons expansion. But if you only have Horizons, if you only have the base game and Horizons, you cannot see or interact with any of the players that are playing on the Odyssey expansion. And none of the Odyssey players can see or interact with any of the players in the Horizons expansion. So you have your player base fragmented 3 ways on the servers. Your player base is fragmented 3 ways. And with the value of Frontier Developments just dropping like a stone, their stock prices have significantly dropped. I think I don't think they're going to be able to. I don't even think they're capable of continuing this game, fixing it. We've seen statements like this before from other companies, and 90% of the time, this statement was later followed up a couple of months or even weeks after with that game's death. We saw similar statements for Anthem, and there was going to be an attempt to fix the game. Well, we know what happened to that. And there were other games that had issues, and they were just basically left to die. I don't think Frontier has any means or any inkling to really fix this game. Now, there are others who agree with me, and Yamix believes this is basically the end of Elite Dangerous, where we're seeing the game basically winding down. The servers, they can keep the servers up currently. You know, the console players who are currently playing the game, they can continue playing it, but I don't see this game making it another year. Unless something really does change, unless they actually do fix this. But their wording here, his wording says they're going to focus on the story. Which means they're not really focusing on fixing things. They're just fixing, they're focusing on continuing their narrative, which there really wasn't a narrative in the game to begin with. Except what was in Galnet. There's no story, there's no campaign in the game. There's what's in Galnet, and then they introduced Thargoids because the game just doesn't have anything beyond that besides just doing missions and just reading or listening to news stories of what's supposedly going on in the galaxy with no gameplay attached to it. This game has been, I think when it's all said and done, I think Elite Dangerous will be a poster child of how not to manage a game. Trying to turn Elite Dangerous into a live service game, I think is and that was the direction that they were trying to put it with the ARC store and everything. Trying to turn it into a live service game, trying to keep the players in the game 24/7 for as long as possible with heavy, grindy gameplay. It's backfired. And their mismanagement and their absolutely just abominable behavior towards their player base on their forums and social media. I don't see this game having a future. I think there's a year left in Elite Dangerous, and then that's it. And there are a lot of people who agree with me. Tygra agrees with me. Yamix in his video, he doesn't see Elite Dangerous having a future, and it's a shame because the game has potential. The game does have potential. I mean, it's the first and only game that has a full, well, there's another one. I think it's Imperium Survival Evolved. I have to look that up. It's a different game with fully explorable galaxy. A fully explorable galaxy based on NASA data, so that the stars are in the correct position. It's a complicated mathematical process of how they generated it. It involves the total mass of what's supposed to be in the galaxy, and then dividing that mass up and generating planets and stars and what materials are supposed to be where. It's really complicated. If you look up how the Stellar Forge engine works, it's pretty fascinating. It's some interesting tech, but that's basically all the game has going for it, along with a really great VR experience. Beyond that, it's not much else. It's got lackluster FPS combat in the Odyssey expansion. Unless you have a really good PC, you're going to have performance issues. And a lot of things that were originally promised in the original pitch for the game has never been delivered. And it's sad. And all this is going to do is drive more people over to Star Citizen, which is not a bad thing. Star Citizen is not perfect. I mean, it's got its own issues too, and everything, but you know, I really enjoyed the VR in Elite Dangerous, and seeing this and knowing what this means, because reading between the lines of his corporate speak statement, this game's basically dead. Unless they can pull something out of their hat, unless say Tencent invests more money into the company, because the bulk of their investors are, the bulk of Frontier Development's investors are financial organizations. Like, I think it's like close to 60% are financial organizations. They're going to see that Frontier is not making them the money. They're going to dump their stock. And that's what's happening. The stock value is dropping because everybody's selling. So unless a big company like EA or Tencent, which unfortunately would probably spell the end of the game, unless a big company that can bring in, you know, funding to help spur development, to help fund more development of the game, to get more people, to fill more seats, for people to work on the game, I don't see this reversing. And it's doesn't bode well for their Warhammer franchise. In fact, they might be prioritizing that over this, because it's a lucrative, Warhammer's a lucrative license, and of course I'm sure their Jurassic Park licenses are expensive, and they have to recoup those costs somehow. It's sad. It's sad when you see a game die, and I see nothing hopeful in this. As I said, I've seen this sort of thing before in the industry, and almost always this occurs before a game's death. There have been very rare exceptions, like Final Fantasy XIV and No Man's Sky, but those are exceedingly rare. Elite Dangerous is dead. Rest in peace, Elite Dangerous. I've been Mike TheZorch. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, consider subscribing, and also click the bell icon so you get notifications. Also in the description below are links to our social media site, Gamers Bay on MeWe. Consider checking it out. It is a social media platform that does not collect data, does not run ads, so they don't sell data, they don't make money off of your data. I'm bummed out by this. Anyway, see you next time.